Happy day everyone. I am Dr. M Asha Banu, Assistant Professor from the Undergraduate Program of Commerce in Corporate Secretaryship. In today's module, I will be briefing you on the various concepts and terminologies which are used in the Sale of Goods Act 1930. Before we proceed into the main context, let's understand the background of the study. The law relating to the sale and purchase of goods prior to 1930 was dealt by the Indian Contract Act 1872. In 1930, section 76 to 123 of the Indian Contract Act was repealed and a separate act known as the Sale of Goods Act was passed. This act lays down the special provisions relating to the contract of the Sale of Goods Act. Contract of sale meaning, according to section 4 of the act, contract of sale means a contract where the seller transfers or agrees to transfer the property of goods to the buyer for a price. Sale, it is a contract where the ownership in the property of goods is transferred by the seller to the buyer immediately at the conclusion of a contract. For example, A agrees to sell his house to B for rupees 10 lakh. It is a sale since the ownership of the house has been transferred from A to B. Agreement to sell. It is a contract of sale where the property of goods is to take place at a future date or subject to certain conditions thereafter to which has to be fulfilled. For example, A agreed to buy from B a certain quantity of nitrate soda. The ship carrying the nitrate soda is yet to arrive. Now, this is a case of agreement to sell because the ownership of nitrate soda is to be transferred to A only on the arrival of the ship which contains that specified goods. Now, let us look into the essential elements of a contract of sale. There must be two parties, namely a buyer and a seller, to constitute a contract of sale. Number 2, goods. Contract of sale relates to goods, that is movable property. Any transaction which involves immovable property are out of the purview of the Sale of Goods Act. Number 3, transfer of general property. The object of the contract must be general property as distinguished from the special property. The term general property refers to the ownership of goods. Number 4, price. The consideration for the contract is price, and it is also important to note that price is always expressed in terms of money. It is equally important to remember that unless and otherwise all the essential elements of a contract are fulfilled, the contract of sale is deemed to be void. Subject matter of a contract of sale of goods. According to section 2, subsection 7 of the act, the term goods means every kind of movable property other than actionable claims and money. Here it also includes stock, shares, growing crops and any things which are attached to the land which is agreed to be severed before the contract of sale gets over. Actionable claims are not included in the definition of goods. Goods include every kind of movable property and does not include immovable property. For example, goodwill, copyright, trademark, patents, etc. So, in order to have a better understanding, the goods have to be classified. So, here's the various classification of goods. Goods may be classified into existing goods, future goods and contingent goods. And existing goods may further be classified into specific goods, ascertained goods and unascertained goods. What are existing goods? These are the goods which are owned and possessed by the seller at the time of sale. So, only goods which are existing at the time of sale can be considered as existing goods. Existing goods may be further classified as specific goods. So, these are goods which are identified and agreed upon at the time of sale. Ascertained goods. Ascertained goods are also those goods which can be ascertained subsequent to the formation of the contract of sale. Unascertained or generic goods. Now, these goods are not identified or agreed upon at the time of sale. So, these goods are defined or used only for the purpose of description alone. Future goods. Goods to be manufactured, produced or yet to be acquired after making the contract are referred to as future goods. For example, a farmer agrees to sell all his farm produce to a buyer in the forthcoming year. Now, this is an example of future goods. Now, this can be well illustrated with an example of two people who are having a conversation. Mohan, I want all the wheat grown in your farm next year to be sold to me. Why not, sir? But I will take rupees 50,000 for the same irrespective of the output. Done. So, this illustration gives us a clear idea of what is a future good. Contingent goods. These goods are a type of future goods. In this case, the acquisition of goods depends upon the seller where uncertain events may happen or may not happen. For example, if you sell your apples from your orchard when the trees are yet to produce apples, the apples are referred as contingent goods. So, the sale is dependent on the conditions that the trees are able to produce apples, which may or may not happen. Moving on to the next, document of title to goods. A document of title to goods may be described as any document used as the proof of possession of the document or control over the goods. But it is important to note that there are two conditions to be fulfilled. It must be used only in the ordinary course of business, the undertaking to deliver the goods to the possessor of the documents. Some of the examples of the documents of title to goods are bill of lading, dock warrant, wire fingers certificate, warehouse keeper's certificates and a railway receipt. Now you can see a pro forma of a document, namely bill of lading, which gives us a clear idea of how it looks. Price. This is the last and the most important element. Section 2 subsection 10 defines price as money consideration for sale of goods. It forms a very essential part of the contract. It must also be noted that it must be expressed in terms of money, and it is also not essential that the price should be fixed at the time of the contract. I hope all of you had a better understanding on the concepts and terminologies which are used in the Sale of Goods Act 1930. Thank you.